Turnpike Authority will now come to order. First item on the agenda is public comment. None? Okay. Good. Next is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 12th, 2024. Motion by Peter, second by Karen. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Next, Partners Technology Phone IBR call flow update to Easy Pass phone system.
Say that 5 times fast.
So Jamie is here presenting. Katie normally would be, but Katie was up until 4 a.m. making sure that the entry has gone, its activation has
Run
gone
smoothly.
So,
And is it going okay?
Yeah, everything's going good. She says it was looking good when she left, so it's good. She slept here last night like a crazy person. She is, so there's that. To dive right into it, the item number 4 is the attached statement of work for Partners Technology to incorporate additional updates for our new IVR system in the amount of $9,000. Back in January of 2024, we an amount of $29,700, which was equivalent to 132 hours of work at $225 per hour. To Partners Technology was approved by the board for the new back office system that required many new updates for the EasyPass phone interactive voice response, or otherwise known as the IVR system. The updates were inclusive of authenticating customer login, changing customer account updates, transferring calls from a CSR to a secure tokenization system for credit card processing, screen popping for customer account info when a customer service representative is on the phone with them, and self-service invoice payments. The original proposal was underestimated for the amount of effort for changes needed due to there were discrepancies between the legacy system documentation as well as the new system. And also when we were diving into the IVR, it came to our attention that some logic and options that were not working in the legacy system that should have been. When Partners was proposed this, we gave them the scope to the best of our ability. The new back office is great and it's exciting times, but there definitely are a lot of parts to look at. So when we're getting into the hood of the car, we found that there was a lot of other features that we needed to change. So a lot of this, the $9,000 is an additional work that they did not scope out originally. In addition, there's new logic introduced to handle invoice payments via the IVR and development between Mobis and the partners to update the remaining greetings, which needed to be updated because it hasn't been updated in some time. The statement of work will take 40 hours at $225 per hour. It is a lump sum not to exceed. It's a time and materials based on the scope of work for the new system. I would like to point out that in the backup, Partners did not include the breakdown of the pricing per hour to total the $9,000. So we will get that to them and we will provide it to you after we get that documentation. So I do apologize that that wasn't included.
Questions? Peter?
Yes, I had some questions about it earlier. That was part of the presentation. This, again, it appears somewhat contradictory, but I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're doing here. Because it says, the very first sentence in the document talks about any amount of $9,000. Mm-hmm. And yet in the financial effect, it says not to exceed. And so I think we want to be assured that if they don't use all the hours, that we don't pay the full $9,000. And the problem is that, as you pointed out, the supporting document doesn't talk about hours at all. It doesn't talk about money. It doesn't talk about not to exceed. So I think it's incumbent upon us to insist that they are clear that they're only going to use the hours. They're only going to get paid for the hours that they actually use.
Yes.
Not to exceed 9,000, but if it's 5,000, they're going to get paid 5,000.
Correct.
Okay, are we clear with that?
Yep, and we'll make sure that's clear in the documentation that we get from them that we'll send to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Further questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept? Motion by Karen, second by Peter. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is administration building HVAC replacement and upgrade.
I'll take that one.
Yes, sir.
The Turnpike and Bridge Authority Administration Facility has 2 rooftop units that provide heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. The units are over 12 years old, and one RTU has been problematic for the past 2 years and has required service multiple times. During the most recent service, our on-call contractor, Arden Engineering, advised us that one unit will need repairs that are approximately a third of the replacement cost. We did some additional research that shows the expected service life of rooftop units in a marine environment is approximately 15 years. So we're almost at that point right now. The building's been modified inside. Our employee and computer count has increased, and it's making it difficult to properly climatize with the existing equipment and controls. All of those factors considered, the staff here proposed to have the building HVAC load demand assessed and a bid specification document developed to advertise for public bid for replacement of both RTUs, new software control system, and system balancing. AI Engineering, one of our on-call consultants with design and mechanical capability, has already been tasked with providing design, construction, administrative services for solar PV panels and roof replacement. You may remember we took that item to the board, I think it was 2 months ago. AI is well suited to perform the same services for the HVAC system, which will include complete system design and analysis, preparing bid documents, bid review, cost estimate, and construction administration services. AI has submitted a proposal in the amount not to exceed $53,098. We've reviewed it and find it reasonable and recommend approval to execute a task order with AI in the amount not to exceed $53,098.
Thank you. Questions? Good. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Pete, second by Karen. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. Great, thanks. Next item, miscellaneous.
Before you continue, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say thank you to Frank, who kept this building cool for the employees and for the computer system while we were dealing with this problem with the HVAC.
Yeah, we had to get a little bit creative.
It was a challenge.
Sorry, the switch chairs.
Next is miscellaneous repairs to Fishing Pier Access Road Bridge and joint replacement of the Jamestown Verrazano Bridge task force.
Take that one as well.
Yes, sir.
So we asked GM2, which is one of our on-call infrastructure professional services, to prepare a task order and fee for design and bid phase services for this project. It includes miscellaneous steel and other repairs to Fishing Pier Access Road Bridge, which is it's an approach bridge that you go over right before you enter the Jamestown Bridge coming eastbound. In the routine inspection, they had identified steel repairs on the west end of the bridge due to leakage in the joint, so it needs a new roadway joint, and it needs steel repairs to repair some of the rust that's been happening over the time, and repairs to the bearings. And also, what we lumped into this project is on the Jamestown Bridge, basically all on the flat trestle spans of the bridge. There's a bunch of bridge joints there that are a certain type. They're all falling apart to the point where you can't really make sufficient repairs to them. So we believe that those joints just need to be cut right out and install a brand new joint system. So because of the proximity of the two projects, we've lumped them together. And we figure that the traffic control can work nicely between the two. GM2 performed this most routine inspection for the Fishing Pier Access Road Bridge and is familiar with all of the current repair requirements. GM2 also has historical knowledge of the Jamestown Verrazano Bridge because they participated in the original design of those west approach spans. So we felt that they were well suited on our on-call list for this project. So they submitted a task order fee proposal in the amount not to exceed $96,245. We've reviewed this proposal and find it reasonable and recommend approval to execute this task order and fee in the amount not to exceed $96,245.
Okay, questions?
I do. Eric, could you just describe the joint replacement on the Jamestown Bridge?
Yeah, so the way the joints are right now, it's basically a strip seal, but it's got these, they're kind of like a rubbery plastic blocks that are anchored down on each side of the strip seal that holds the seal down. And over time, those pieces have probably come loose a lot of times from plows. They'll start to lift a little bit, the plows are breaking the pieces off. And what's happening is now the strip seals are totally exposed and they're falling through, so you've got a lot of leakage that's going down onto the bearings below. we're going to recommend looking into some sort of an elastomeric
That's my
joint.
question.
Yeah, so we went to Delaware, down to the Delaware Memorial Bridge, and they were using a new polymer type of an elastomeric joint. We'd like to investigate that joint. We're not sure, if the cost will fit into our budget, but it looked like a really good product that could be used on concrete bridge surface. But if that one doesn't work out, we'll look into some other type of elastomeric joint.
So if that was possible, then it would create a continuous,
It'll create a continuous, you wouldn't have that strip seal
Right.
exposed, in other words.
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all set.
Further questions? How long do these joints typically last, Eric?
It depends on the type of joint. I mean, strip seals, you're typically replacing them pretty often because what happens is you'll get debris, sand, and other debris in there. And as cars drive over it, it actually drives that sand into the strip seal and it tears and it just pushes the strip seal through. It's really a flawed design, strip seals. They've been used for years, but they have to be replaced often.
This
So
is 32 years, right?
they've been there a long time, so those joints have had, they've had work done to them over the years, but they've gotten to the point now where it's just beyond, being able to keep up on the repairs, so.
So we're talking about the whole trestle?
Talking about all the trestle spans, right, just about to where you step above the incline. Those are all the same type of bridge joint, and then it changes after that. Yeah, there's 7 joints total.
Thank you.
Sure.
Further questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion? Motion by Karen, seconded by Peter. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Eric. Routine inspection of the Mount Hope Bridge.
Yep, I'll take that one again. As you know, our bridges are required to have routine inspection every 2 years by Federal Highway. Mount Hope Bridge is due this year. We solicited cost proposals from 5 of our pre-qualified on-call professional services consultants. 4 of those consultants responded with pricing ranging from $213,630 to $596,962. Majeski and Masters was the lowest cost proposal, but the next lowest cost proposal was just about $2,000 more in the amount of $215,758. We're recommending approval of the attached proposal by Attain, which is the second lowest proposal, mainly because M&M has done the last several rounds of inspections on Mount Hope Bridge, so we'd like to get a fresh set of eyes on the bridge, and because the 2 proposals were nearly the same cost, it makes more sense, in our opinion, to go with Attain this time. We benchmarked these costs against previous inspection costs for the bridges, found it to be reasonable. We had $200,000 in the budget for this year's inspection based on the previous cost analysis. The cost came in approximately $16,000 higher than budgeted, but we are now requiring the consultants to provide their own equipment and traffic control, which will allow us to use, we used to offer the use of our UB, for example, and sometimes we would provide traffic control. We've got our own needs for the next several years on our bridges to keep washing the bridges, so we're now requiring that the consultants provide their own when they do their inspections, so that our own staff and equipment are freed up so we can keep going, doing our own maintenance on the bridges. So we'd like to recommend approval of this task order in a not to exceed amount of $215,758.
Questions?
Just a comment. I think that we've all discussed in the past about the need to have different eyes on the bridges at different times, at different intervals, and this is going along with that philosophy, which I agree with.
Just to piggyback on that, I think, given recent events, I think it just eliminates, finger pointing and second guessing that you've got something different looking at.
Right.
I think it's a good idea.
Good.
Thank you. Further questions, discussion? Hearing none, motion to approve. Peter, second by Karen, discussion, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you. Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is the Newport Pell Bridge compression link replacement. Eric?
The one we've been waiting for. We recently advertised an invitation for bid to perform the Newport Pell Bridge East Tower Southeast compression link replacement. This replacement is the recommendation of the recent inspection and evaluation of the compression link. 3 bids were received by the deadline and opened publicly on June 26th of this year. Bids ranged from $867,000 to $1,452,000. Mohawk Northeast out of Connecticut was the apparent low bidder. The bid amount is in the range of WSP's preliminary construction estimate of $1,117,000. WSP performed the bid review analysis and interviewed the low bidder with our own participation and recommend that RITBA execute a construction contract with Mohawk. Also, Aetna Bridge Company currently owns portions of the existing access platform components that are installed on the compression link right now, and has third-party rental contracts for the scaffolding, stair tower, and jacks. RIPA staff have negotiated with Aetna to provide a purchase amount for the platform components that they own that accounts for the value of those components minus what we have paid to date for the rental. Additionally, Aetna has agreed to allow RIPA to assume the third-party rental contracts. These actions will release Aetna from any liability concerns during the replacement construction. This wouldn't have arisen if they won the bid, but they did not win the bid, so that's why we proceeded with these actions. We recommend approval of the construction contract with Mohawk in the amount not to exceed $867,000 for the replacement of the compression link. The budget includes $1,100,000 for the replacement. We also recommend purchasing Aetna's platform components for a price not to exceed $16,000 and to assume the rental cost for the scaffolding, stair tower, and jacks in the amount not to exceed $5,000 per month for the period necessary to complete the compression link replacement. And we anticipate that to be complete in December of this year, the compression link replacement.
Is that common where one company will sign off to another?
In a situation like this, yes. So Aetna basically said, hey, if we end up winning this bid, we don't have a concern. However, they approached us before the bids came in and said, if we don't win the bid, we have some liability concerns with the equipment that we installed out there and some of the stuff that's under rental from us. So we all discussed it internally and said, why don't we just talk about a purchase of the equipment? We can retain the purchased equipment after the construction's done. Mohawk will just disassemble it and we can retain it, and either we keep it or we can dispose of it through public surplus later. But the rental cost, same thing. It's pretty simple to turn over the rental of the items as well. And then Aetna basically can wash their hands of any liabilities.
Under the Aetna agreement, if they had to come take them down, they would have gotten to bill us for that and then had a new cost in having a new company come in to rent and set up
Reinstall it.
again and reinstall it. So it was pretty wasteful
That eliminates
transaction.
that.
Right. One of the items in the construction contract, just while we're on this subject, actually includes an item for the new contractor to go out, do an inspection of all of the equipment that's out there, basically to protect themselves, that everything's safe, and there's an allowance in the construction contract in case they have to go out and do any retrofits or add any chain falls or extra equipment to shore it up before they use it. So.
Just a question. Big picture wise, do you anticipate many more of these replacements coming up based upon what we know now?
So we anticipate.
This is for the compression link itself.
I think there's either 2 or 3 of them that still exist that are original and haven't been touched at all. So I anticipate when we do the bundle of projects under the infra grant, when we get to the steel tower painting contract, that we'll have some more compression link work that'll be included in that. And we've written that into the grant when we did the grant application. We wrote in compression link.
Okay.
We added an amount in there for compression link work and also the wind tunnels in that area.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do I have a motion to accept? Motion by second by Peter. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Next, Newport Bridge infra grant projects.
Sure. So in November of '23, RIPA solicited proposals for qualified engineering firms to provide engineering investigation, design, and construction support services for the infra grant projects. These 3 projects were broken out into suspension cables and anchorages dehumidification, concrete deck and joints rehab, and steel repairs, painting, and tower elevator rehabilitation. So that would be the project that the compression link work would be included in. The request for proposals issued was reviewed and approved by the Federal Highway Administration, and the funding source for this project is the infra grants. On January 16th of '24, we received proposals from 4 consulting firms: Commonwealth Engineers and Consultants, AECom, WSP, and Majeski Masters. RIPA's selection committee, which included HDR, our program manager for the infra grant projects, reviewed each proposal and interviewed all of the consulting firms. The interviews were held in person right here in the administration building between June 24th and June 28th. M&M was requested to provide, M&M is Majeski Masters, was requested to provide more information in a second interview remotely via Microsoft Teams on July 12th. HDR prepared and submitted a summary of interviews and proposals on July 23rd. RIPA's selection committee reviewed and concurred with the recommendations. We're recommending the following selection of consultants for the 3 infra grant projects. For the suspension cables and anchorages dehumidification, we'd like to recommend AECom. Concrete deck and joint rehabilitation, we'd like to recommend Majeski Masters. And steel repairs, painting, and tower elevator rehabilitation, we'd like to recommend WSP.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Comment more than anything else. I want to compliment you and the staff on the level of effort it took to corral all the players and get all this information and distill it and make sense out of it and come up with what I thought were very good recommendations. So compliments to
Thank
you.
you.
This is obviously a big issue for us on the infra grants, and we're talking multi-millions of dollars to update the bridge. Could you just explain how it goes from here in terms of the funding? How the dollars for these contracts comes about?
Yeah, so the next step now that we've made these selections would be to reach out to these 3 consultants. They'll provide a scope of services, and HDR will participate as the program manager. Basically, they're an extension of our staff. HDR will help in reviewing the scope, make sure the scopes are all developed thoroughly first, and then the consultants will go off and develop a fee proposal that matches that scope. HDR, we're anticipating that Federal Highway is going to recommend what's called an independent fee estimate, which HDR can perform as part of their scope of services as a program manager. Well, they'll take the scope of work, then independently go off and come up with what their opinion of cost would be for that. And then they hold that until the consultant then submits their fee, and then we try to marry the 2 together and come up with, what the differences are. There will be differences. There's really no set percent difference that you have to meet. You just have to reconcile that, if there is a difference, why there's differences. We've gone through this process with FAA projects in the past when we did airport work. It's a pretty simple process. It's something that we're well versed in. And then once everything is reconciled and the Federal Highway agrees with those task orders, we'll then take them to the board, just like we've done with these other task orders for your approval. Proceed with design.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion made by Karen. No, Peter, seconded by Peter. Discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is the safety barrier feasibility study, Mount Hope Bridge and Jamestown Verrazano Bridge.
Sure, take this one again. RITBA received $1 million to perform safety barrier feasibility studies on both the Mount Hope and the Jamestown Verrazano bridges. We have now received the final study, and the conclusion is that no form of safety barrier can be installed on the Mount Hope Bridge for several reasons. And that installation of a safety barrier on the Jamestown Verrazano Bridge would require removal of the existing pedestrian railing to maintain the current load carrying capacity. The height of the barrier would also have to be limited, this is on Jamestown Verrazano, would have to be limited to 2 feet shorter than the recommended effective height due to the weight limitation on that bridge. The estimated total cost of a safety barrier installation on the Jamestown Verrazano Bridge is between $8.9 million and $10.3 million.
I have a question.
Sure.
How long ago did you receive this report?
When did this come in? June, it was May or June, I think. It was like, yeah, it was drafted in March, May or June was the final report. June 1.
And so it's accessible for the public to read, right? I mean, what is it, like 600 or 700 pages?
it's quite
Pretty,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's in final form now, yes.
Have you received any requests?
We had a request from Senator De Palma for the report, and we've shared it with him. We have not received any other requests, to my knowledge.
So the folks that have come before us or voiced their concerns have not reached out to you?
No.
Thank you.
Just some comments. The cost that's shown on here for that $10 million is not even remotely what the cost would be if it was selected. And I just think it's important for everybody to understand that, because that only does about 60% of the bridge to begin with. It doesn't do the whole bridge,
Right.
for one thing. We would have to purchase, because of the nature of the netting, we'd have to purchase different equipment in order to do inspections. than we
Maintenance.
currently do.
Yep.
And the report also mentions very specifically that in capital projects, the net would become an issue and would cost us multi-millions of dollars more on capital projects. So when people talk about a $10 million cost for this, it's way more than that for this authority.
What is that netting made out of, if you don't?
They priced it as a stainless steel type of it's a thin mesh.
Marine grade stainless steel.
Right.
There's only one manufacturer in the US that makes it.
Right.
And if
Just
someone
picture
were
it,
to,
yeah.
God forbid, jump and land in this netting, wouldn't it just slice them up?
No, so these nets would be vertical.
Vertical?
They would, the Golden Gate Bridge did horizontal nets down below.
Yeah.
And so they've got a different design. They did it for visual considerations, and when people do leave the bridge deck, they end up in the net and they're harmful, basically.
This is a preventative to get over.
This is a vertical. These would be proposed as vertical barriers. So Jamestown Bridge, Mount Hope Bridge was recommended to have no barrier for both weight limitations and wind considerations because of its, its nature of being a suspension bridge. It's a narrow 2-lane bridge. All things considered, when they looked at that bridge, they can't recommend putting a barrier on that bridge. Jamestown has its own issue related to, if you recall, me bringing to the board the issue of the shear cracks that are in the bridge and the new load rating manuals from Federal Highway. You cannot add any dead load to that bridge without reload rating and most likely posting that bridge. So what the consultant Atkins did in the study is they looked at how could you possibly put a barrier on. So they basically looked at the per linear foot weight of this barrier. They compared it to the pedestrian railing and said, well, it's equal to the pedestrian railing, so the only way you put barrier on is to remove all the pedestrian railing and replace it with this barrier. So,
Just, if I could, I'm passionate about this issue. Just a editorial comment, I guess. And Atkins did a good job on that. At the beginning of the discussion, they talked about statistics of the number of suicides per year in the state. And if I had it correct, all our bridges, I think, represent less than 4% of all the suicides in the state. 4%. So the question, in my view, becomes: has anybody talked to medical professionals, mental health professionals, to say, well, would the money be better spent addressing the entire population on mental health as opposed to focusing on less than 4%? So I just say that for what it's worth. That's just a concern that I have, is that it seems to be unbalanced, the view of it, that everything is looking at these structures when there's a much bigger population out there that needs help.
Right.
And maybe the money would be better spent that way.
I agree. I have stated almost the exact same thing. That money would be better spent for education, for help, for more beds, various facilities. So I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions, discussion? Thank you, Eric.
sure.
Next is capital project status.
I'll take this one as well. I promise it's my last one. I'll go through these fairly quickly. So Phase 2 AET construction has, we've resumed construction out behind us as of Monday. The demo of the old gantry will take place on the 26th of August. And then the contractor will begin doing some lane shifting to basically to realign all the rest of the highway, because right now this whole western portion of the project still needs realignment. We were waiting for the new gantry to go live so that we can take the old gantry down and then start to shift everybody over. So we'll start to see that happening in the coming weeks. The final design for the Mount Hope Bridge cable and anchorage dehumidification project is proceeding. We're advertising, we're anticipating advertising the project for construction bids in October. Rubberized asphalt chip seal design should be just about complete, and we'll be advertising that shortly so we can get that put out to bid. Compression link phase 1 work, this will drop off of our updates once we purchase the remaining equipment from Aetna. That'll close out that contract, and then we'll proceed with all the phase 2 work, which includes construction support services with WSP, which is already approved by the board, and then the construction contract with Mohawk, which you've just approved. We will be negotiating a new scope of work and fee with HDR to continue the program management services on the infra project for the Newport Belt Bridge. All they have done so far was basically the scope of fee for consultant selection services and review of some documents, so that's pretty much complete at this point. I do anticipate a very small task order amendment of approximately $5,000. We're waiting for that to come in. We'll bring it to you for approval. It's because there was some additional interview meetings that were held and some additional review that were required to complete these services that were not included in the scope. So I'll bring that forward once I receive it. Let's see. And then you've just approved the Jamestown Bridge and Fisher Access Bridge, so that'll begin the new roof, solar, and HVAC design. We've got a 30% submittal for the rooftop and solar. We've provided some initial comments back to the consultant, and we'll just continue working on the design of that, and then we'll add in the HVAC design now that that's been approved. We just discussed the safety feasibility study for Mount Hope Bridge and Jamestown Horizontal Bridge. I'll drop that off the sheet since that's complete now. We had a meeting on the same feasibility studies for Newport Belt Bridge and Secana River Bridge. We had a meeting with Atkins yesterday. They're about 40% complete and on track with that study, and continue to do inspections as listed down below on your update.
Eric, just a comment on the,
Sure.
and a good comment, on the safety battery feasibility study.
Yeah.
Could you just point out the under budget part of things?
Oh yeah, on the Mount Hope Bridge and Jamestown Horizontal Bridge feasibility study, I think we're about $119,000 on the budget on that, and it's complete, so we don't anticipate needing to use any more of that, so they come in on the budget on that. And the comment that Atkins made is in yesterday's meetings, they anticipate they could be under budget on the next study as well when we get closer to the end.
And I bring that up because just to show the value of the discussion about when we go out and we scope it and we have a not to exceed budget, if we don't use it, we don't pay for it. If this was a lump sum, we'd be paying the whole amount.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Next, Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before getting into that, you have in your packets, you have the financial reports. I just want to note that there is, that Jeff is not presenting anything today because we are in the middle of our audit, and he will be presenting a comprehensive report next month.
Actually, I'd like to see where the checks go to, so this is interesting.
So on the executive director's report, I always keep federal funding. We keep our eye on any prizes that are out there that we might be able to take advantage of. Right now, we have all of our projects going on the awards that have been made to us. The only other thing that would be right now, never want to say the only thing, but one thing that would be on our wish list is for funding for the redecking of the Mount Hope Bridge. That is not included in any of the federal grants that we've received to date, so we'll keep our eye open for a good opportunity, and we'll be talking to Washington and everybody else and see if we can get that covered as well. Bridge safety and security. As you know, in the spring, we all woke up one morning, some of us earlier than others, to the news that the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore had gone into the water because of a vessel strike. We have taken this opportunity to review our existing plans. We've had meetings, comprehensive meetings. We've improved some of our preparations for an event like that here. We have a bridge closure and evacuation plan. It is it's getting even more thoroughly developed to address not just potential vessel strikes, but also the possibility of chemical spills, large fires on the bridge, whether it's because of a fuel truck or a vehicle fire, extreme weather conditions that require closures and evacuations, and unfortunately the possibility of things like bomb threats or terrorist incidents. So the Department of Homeland Security recommends a comprehensive plan, which we believe we have in place, and it gets more comprehensive as we continue to meet with all our partners. I'll be leaving here as soon as this meeting is over because the federal government has convened a Board of Inquiry meeting at the Coast Guard offices in East Providence. Steve Cahill isn't with us today because he's there attending in my place until I can get up there and attend with him. But there will be representatives from all the agencies that would be involved if there were an incident like one of the incidents I've just described. We have, I've mentioned, we have a system now that's an immediate response in the event that someone from the Marine Pilots Association were to advise us that a vessel strike could happen. We have an immediate response system in place that involves our traffic management technicians who would communicate with any maintenance employees and that we have out on our bridges, or and also would communicate with law enforcement and 911 to get everyone off the bridge. We have to plan for two kinds of incidents. Well, I mean, more than two, but one is a water incident, which eventually would involve also what's going on the road above it, because obviously if there's an incident there, you've got to stop the traffic and divert it. Others could be simply an incident on the bridge itself, and we have everything in place to work with our partners. Today I expect to see at this meeting at the Coast Guard offices, I expect to see representatives from REMA, representatives from law enforcement and fire departments in our host communities here. The Coast Guard obviously, they're bringing in everyone that would play a role, and they're going to go through all the possibilities and make certain that we have plans in place. So, at some point we will be giving you a formal document that shows exactly what our plan looks like. It's well underway. We already have a plan in place, but given what happened with the Francis Scott Key, we are making certain that we address everything. So that's that. Another thing I have I just wanted to make you aware of. Yesterday, I think Jamie and I and Katie and Kelsey from our tolling department, we all met with a company called Pay by Car. You may have seen a press release that came out that said, pretty soon you will be able to use your transponder to buy gas at gas stations in Rhode Island. Well, that's not exactly true. However, there is this new product company called Pay by Car. They have been offering this in other states. It is in partnership with E-ZPass, with what we call the IAG, which is the entity that runs all of our to which we belong as members of the E-ZPass group. So it's a division of that called Driven by E-ZPass, and it will involve your transponder simply announcing your arrival at a gas station. That's the only connection between your transponder and this product. So if you liked this idea, if you saw if you saw a list of the convenience stores, gas stations, other places where you might be able to avail yourself of this product, then you might want to sign up for this thing called Pay by Car. But it will be completely separate from us, and the only involvement will be the transponder will be announcing your arrival at the location. And there will be, but if you buy gas at that station, or if you buy a soda in the convenience store, that will not post to your Easy Pass account. The first draft of the press release went out, suggested otherwise. We quickly reached out, and there was a correction that was in it. That it was issued actually by USA Today, so that because our partners at AAA, who do a lot of our Easy Pass business, were reporting that they were getting a lot of phone calls asking about this new product called Pay by Car. I think it will be a positive thing that a transponder in your car has other capabilities, and yet it will. One of the things we wanted to make certain about is that it would not burden our customer service representatives in our walk-in center, but in our call-in center, because they are already quite burdened, and they have assured us that where they have rolled this out, as close as Massachusetts, there has been no additional burden. So we'll keep our eye on that. As it's not coming next week. It's not coming next month. In fact, we said to them we're rolling out a new back office system, and we don't want to see it rolled out before we let us get our ducks in order before you roll out this new product that involves our transponder. So that's that. Next item is Fitch rating on motor fuel tax bonds. We always have good news, knock on wood, and motor fuel tax bonds, however, don't usually bring good news. So we were very glad that we remained at A-. That is our rating. As you know, we are A+ with Fitch and S&P on our toll revenue bonds. On motor fuel tax bonds, it's an A- with a stable outlook. We were very pleased with that news because, as I say, motor fuel tax, we all know, is not going to increase in the years to come. So if we're not shining with an A+, it's not our fault specifically. It's simply a result of the fact that the motor fuel tax revenue is just going down because of more efficient gasoline and because of the advent of purchase of more electric cars. So that was good news for us. And our next board meeting will be September 25th. We do have an executive session on the agenda, so I'd like to just move into that unless there are any questions. Oh, and I'm sorry, and at the risk of Joe Rodeo telling me I'm moving off agenda, I do want to introduce Vincent Jakes, who is our new HR manager. He's only been here a few weeks. It's been baptism by fire, I think, but he's still smiling, as you can see. So, and he came back after the first day and after the first week. So we went several months without an HR manager. We're welcoming the fact that we have an HR manager here. I think our workforce is appreciative that there's someone, that there's a resource, and he's already taken on some great projects that have put smiles on people's faces.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here. Everyone's been really kind, hitting the ground running, might be a better way to put it. But yeah, things have been great. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the introduction. It's nice to meet you all.
Could you tell us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, I've been working in human resources for a few years now. I was previously working for a company based out of New York City. It's nice to be in person. That had kind of a hybrid remote aspect to it, so it's really nice being in person, getting face to face with the employees I work with. I have been working in business. I got a business degree for quite some time since I graduated from URI. And I've been local. My family lives around here, so it's really nice to be working for a company that has everything to do with the state of Rhode Island, and just be a little bit more part of the goings. So yeah, it's been wonderful.
Okay, good. Welcome.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, we're going to go into executive session. Thank you, everyone.